Hi everyone, for those of you guys that just joined the room, my name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Manager for Appraiser Genie. I believe we were expecting about 25 people, give or take, so I'm going to give it a minute or two. I just want to check in with everyone. We are going to demonstrate it with Total a la mode today, so I'm expecting all of you guys use Total. If not, you can find webinars for Appraise It or ACI on our website. I will be back in just a minute. Thank you. All right, looks like everyone is in here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Now I will record this webinar. That way if you guys want to share this with anyone in your office, whatever you want to do with it, once the webinar is over, I will send this to Mr. Soto so he can forward this to anyone needed. So we'll go ahead and get started today. Once again, introduction, my name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Manager for Appraiser Genie. We're going to go through this webinar with Total a la mode, which is the main one that typically appraisers use, but we do support Appraise It, ACI, and ClickForms in a couple of months. Okay, so what I have is I already have a report open, and what I have filled out is what is required before you start Appraiser Genie. You can have more than this by all means in the report, but this is basically a bare minimum so you have an idea of what you actually need in the report. And just to let everyone know, I do mute everyone, and the only reason why I mute everyone is so we can keep on track. But if you have any questions, send me a message in chat, and then I will hold like a QA session after, because typically I explain everything all the way through, so most of your questions get answered anyway. Alright, so what you see here is the subject I'm going to use today. We are in the Abilene area, so I'm going to use an Abilene report. You'll notice most of this is blank. Primarily what you'll need to have completed is your subject information. So I have the address, city, state, zip, county. Pretty much leave the rest of this blank. You can fill in the neighborhood characteristics or the present land usage. We don't fill that in at all. But we do actually fill in the one unit housing trends and the one unit housing price and age, low, high, and pre-dom. So you can leave these blank. Some of this down here in the improvement area, I have the general information filled out. So I have the stories, if it's a one unit, detached, existing, design if I know it, year built, heating and cooling of course, fireplace, patio, porch, and if it has a carport, garage, or driveway. I do have this information, so I just go ahead and enter it. If you don't, that's okay. So I'm going to scroll down. And on page 2, on the left-hand side, I have the subject information. You do need to fill this out as much as you can. All of this information will later be sent to buildingcost.net, and they return the total replacement cost based on your subject. So it's important to have an accurate quality rating and condition rating. If you don't, your adjustments can be too high or too low depending on this. Now my ranch isn't transferring for some reason, so there we go. So I'm just going to save that change. And you'll notice everything else is pretty much left blank. The cost approach is blank, or I'm sorry, the tenant form C is blank. Cost approach, that's all blank because we fill that in for you. So generally, this is how you'll start a report since we fill out the grid and tenant form C, cost approach, concession comments, subject previous, a lot of the comments we fill in for you. So this is what I suggest you start with. Just kind of keep it bare bones. Now, one thing that is required when you use Appraiser Genie is we do have to set up your MLS, and what we do is we call map it. Basically, we take your MLS, we create a custom export. It's stored on the MLS. It's basically a template with certain fields that are in a certain order. Your MLS has probably over 500 different fields, but we use less than 200. So we kind of tailor it to Genie. That way when you do log into your MLS, you'll create a neighborhood search. All you do is export it to the template we create for you and save it to your computer. So for example, I have a file down here. What I did is I logged into Intrace, which is North Texas MLS. I just created the neighborhood boundaries itself. I grabbed all my statuses, active, solds, pendings, etc. And I actually went back 2 years, so 730 days for solds and actives, pendings, all of that's in there. And I didn't narrow it outside of that other than defining single family, and I did a 2-mile radius from my subject. So you'll see there's quite a few comps in here. If we scroll all the way down, I think there's 468. So this encompasses my entire neighborhood, the boundaries itself, up to 2 years. And I can't really tell you guys how to do it specifically. It honestly varies. Your location, the subject's going to vary, but you'll just want to define the boundaries in the MLS. We'll take care of the narrowing once we're in Genie. So this you will do on your own. If you're not sure how to do this, there is a video on appraisergenie.com, and it does show you an example of how one is exported from Intrace. We're working on one for Paragon and Matrix. That way if you guys use one of those search engines, you'll have a general idea of how to do it. If you don't worry. We show you how to do this during the demo, or if you give us a call, we'll show you how to do it either way. So I'm going to minimize this. Now I already have my MLS search done, as you just saw, and I have my report ready. So this is the point I would want to go ahead and start Appraiser Genie. There is a dashboard button on the right-hand side. Once I click that, I'll have an icon here. It says Appraiser Genie. If you have not installed it, you're going to go to the Total Store. You're going to click Launch. And towards the top of the page under Partner Products right here, you're going to see Appraiser Genie. So you'll want to click on this icon. And if this is your first experience, if you're a brand new user, definitely click on Free Trial 10 Uses. That way you'll have 10 reports on us, and those 10 are a great way to kind of get to understand the software, how it works, and those are no cost to you. So you would click on this. You're going to sign in with your email and password, whatever Alamode has on file for you, and you're going to sign in. Now I obviously already have it on my computer, so I'm not going to sign in. You will have a little pop-up. It's going to say thank you for your purchase, and then you can just close this window out. You'll go back to dashboard and close it. Launch it one more time. And then you guys will also see Appraiser Genie here. The only difference is it's going to say download like this one here. You just have to run the installation real quick and then come back and it will say launch. So that's a very easy installation process. It takes 2 seconds. If you need help, just give us a call. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to click launch here. We're going to choose a currently open report. Of course, we have the report open, so we'll want to click on this. If you do have multiple open, please make sure you have the right one selected, and then we will click OK. Now, Genie will launch automatically with whatever you have set on your computer as your default web browser. You'll notice mine is going to open with Chrome. Chrome is the one I tend to use. Genie just runs a lot better on Chrome or Firefox. We do not support Internet Explorer. So if you use older versions of Internet Explorer, I wouldn't waste your time. I would just set your default to Chrome or Firefox. Now you're going to have a little pop-up screen that's asking for an email and password. If you're a new user, you won't have one. You're going to have to make one. So underneath the submit button, it says registration. Once you click on that, it's just going to ask for your email, your password, your name. You'll fill that out. Then it will take you back here, and you just sign in with the email and password you just made. I obviously already have one, so I'm just going to sign in with the information here and click submit. Now I will go through this as if you're a brand new user, so I will take you guys to what we call the defaults page. That is the actual tab you will see initially. Samantha, can everyone else hear me? I unmuted everyone in case anyone wants to verbally let me know they can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good.
All right. Okay. All right, Samantha, thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to take you guys to is the defaults page. What you'll see is, notice how Genie launches on its own. We're a cloud-based software, so all it uses is your web browser. We're going to use this forward arrow and backward arrow. These are the arrows you use to navigate to these other tabs. Right now they'll be grayed out because we haven't imported anything. So what we want to do is click this arrow and go all the way over. until we see a tab at the end that says defaults. We're going to click on this. Now I'm going to take you guys through the defaults because there are some things on here you'll want to set up. And like I said, if you're a brand new user, you're actually automatically taken to this page the very first time you use Genie. You'll have a little pop-up box. It'll be your terms of service agreement. All you have to do is enter your initials, and then you'll see what I see here. Okay, the first thing you'll need to do, very importantly, make sure you have the right software selected. If you use Total, you'll change it, of course, to Auto Mode. There's TSI, Appraise It, and ClickForms. The below information is basically helping you to tailor your report. You may not make the same type of adjustments that another appraiser does, or you may want to set this up a certain way, kind of in line with what you already do. So for example, concessions here. If you're not sure how to use these, there's little blue question marks. Once you click on it, Genie wants you to enter the maximum percentage of concessions that's customary for your area. Now this kind of depends on where you are. You'll notice there's a percentage sign here because it's a percentage. If you leave a 0 there, then you're telling Genie just go ahead and adjust for all concessions that are reported. If your maximum customary percentage is 3, you can put a 3 there, and anything over 3% reported will adjust for. Now, this honestly depends on your MLS. If your MLS does not actually give us a concession amount, it's not going to give you a concession adjustment. So keep that in mind. That depends on your MLS. I'm going to go ahead and adjust for all concessions, so I'll leave the 0 there. Age variance, this one is very easy to understand. If you don't typically adjust for every year difference subject to comp as far as age, you could put a number here and Genie will basically skip over that. So I don't want Genie to make an adjustment if my comps are 5 years newer or 5 years older than my subject. So if I put a 5 there, we'll skip over that. Anything over that we will make an age adjustment for. If you want to adjust for every year age difference, put a 0. Site size variance, it's a percentage. Whatever percentage you place there, we will not give you a site size adjustment for. So if the comps are within 30% of the subject's site size, we basically skip over that. Anything over 30% we'll adjust for as far as site. Or you can leave a 0 and we'll adjust for all site size reported. Now these two typically here, subject previous sales years prior, comp previous sales years prior, you typically will not change these, and those are defaults that I believe Fannie Mae requirement. I know this one here will change if you use a FHA, depends on what you're doing. So you could change that to a 3 or leave that as a 1. Okay, minimum square foot to adjust here. The number displayed will tell Genie as far as GLA adjustment. If you don't want to adjust for maybe the first 100 square foot difference, you could put 100 here. Anything over 100 we will adjust as far as GLA. If you put 50, that's fine. If you leave a 0, we're just going to adjust for all GLA reported. So I'm going to put 100. Adjustment rounding. This just tells Genie how precise you want the adjustment rounding to be. Do you want us to round up to the next 100, 500, 1,000? Obviously, the more precise you want the adjustment, I would put it on 100. Now, those are your only options. If you guys don't want any rounding at all, you can leave an email, or there's a button up here that says feedback. If you click on that and we have enough appraisers who don't want any rounding, we will add none in there, and then it will just adjust for the amount itself. Comp export sort order, you're going to tell Genie how you want the comps exported to your report. Do you want us to order them by close date, contract date, distance from subject, whatever you'd like in this drop-down. I'm going to go with close date. Effective age, reconciled value, calculated adjustments, these are all optional. Anything with a check mark means you can provide this information later on in the report, or leave it checked and we will do this for you. Now, if you don't typically adjust for gate, maybe you don't adjust for sprinkler, you can deselect these and we will not give you an adjustment for the ones unselected. I'm just going to leave them all checked just for demo purposes. Okay, National Association of Home Builders. This percentage here is actually the GLA less any incidentals such as sidewalk, driveways, fences, etc. We automatically pull this value from their website. It is updated annually. So anytime the National Association of Home Builders, if they change it, that will reflect here. And we will actually use this to contribute to the GLA percentage out of the total replacement cost being 100%. So this you guys can skip. MLS acronym, once again, you do need to have your MLS mapped. This means ABOR is Austin Board of Realtors, and TRACE is North Texas, and CRAR I believe is Cedar Rapids Association of Realtors, or I don't know what that is, but I think it's Cedar Rapids. Now you guys will just enter the MLS acronym of whichever you use. For example, if you're in California and you use CRMLS, you'll type that there. If you're in Colorado, that's an example of one. Whatever MLS you guys use is what you'll put here as the acronym. Now you'll see I have 3 here. I can actually use up to 8 different MLSs, and Genie will map it accordingly to whichever one I'm using. Verification source, this is going to go into the report down here under verification source. What do you want us to put there? Do you want us to put MLS assessor followed by the list price, which will pull the list price? If you don't want list price, you can have doc number, listing office, whatever you want in this drop-down box. And the reason there are 3 boxes is you could put up to 3 different things. I don't recommend that because, as you notice, you can only fit so much in this field here before it starts to kind of type over, as you see with that field there. So I'd recommend at least this, or just put 1. It's up to you. And that's just literally going to say MLS assessor, and then we'll pull the list price. The below information pretty much fills out the report as best as we can. A lot of this information does not return from the MLS, and obviously public records don't tell us this either. So for example, we want to fill out the comp grid as best as we can. So in property rights, we're going to put fee simple. If you put that in your defaults for every report and every comp. Same thing with location rating, location factor. Now if your MLS does give us the rating or factor, we'll actually put what the rating and factor is. If they don't, whatever is displayed here, that's what's going to go into your comp grid. You don't have to use what you see here. You can write your own, or you can use the drop-down box and change it to something already listed. So I'll give you an example. Functional utility. These are your options. I didn't want any of those. I just wrote DP installation, so that's what's going to show up here in my report. Under functional utility, it's going to say DP installation across the board. Porch and patio. Most MLSs do not clarify if it's a covered porch, whatever kind of porch it is, if it's a covered patio. So what you can do is you can type in something here, and that's what's going to be entered into the report. Now that's going to go in there for every comp, whether or not we know it has a covered porch or patio. So what I do is I leave it blank. Nothing will go into this field once I export it. It's going to be blank right here. And I can just fix that myself, because if I dupe this all the way across and they don't have a porch or patio, I have to manually kick them out anyway. Blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3. You're going to notice I have fireplace in row 1A and pool in row 3A. So Genie is automatically going to put fireplace in my blank row 1 and pool in blank row 3. And if the comps have a fireplace or a pool, it's going to go straight across. And if there's an adjustment, it will go straight across as well. You'll notice I purposely put fireplace in row 1 and pool in row 3 because that is where the adjustments fall on a different page. So I'll show you that later if it doesn't make sense now. You can actually list up to 3 different things in each blank. So let's say I want fireplace, in-law, outdoor kitchen in row 1. It's going to say that, and it's literally going to put fireplace followed by in-law and outdoor kitchen. I don't recommend you put that many in there because, as stated earlier, you're going to run out of room. So I typically just leave 1 in each, and I can click on the blank space to get rid of them. Blank row 2, I just leave that blank entirely. That just depends on my report. I may put upgrades there. Maybe next time I want workshop or outdoor kitchen. If you typically use the same thing for every report, it's great. Go ahead and put that there. If not, just leave this blank. You can go back to your report later and change it. Public records verification, later on when you're going through the Genie and you're choosing the comps you want to use for the report, you can set Genie to pull from whichever source you want to by default. So for example, for site, if you feel your MLS reports more accurate site information for your comps than public, you can click on MLS. And when we verify your comp site information for the report, we will just automatically go with whatever MLS reports. Or if you feel public's better, you can change that to public. If you're not sure what to use, leave it on Ask Me, and then later on we'll show you what all of them said. We'll say public said 10 years, MLS said 9 years. Whatever the case is, we'll show you what all of them say. Lastly, peer database. Now, peer database, what we do is if you or other appraisers run the comparables through the Genie, we'll report what's averagely used for that field. So for example, for bed, if I left it on peer and somebody has ran this comp through or you have, we will say, okay, if averagely for this comp, they're reporting 3 beds, whatever the case is. I don't recommend that, and the only reason why I don't is if you're in California, Texas, a larger state, there are quite a few users that we have a ton in those states. So you'll probably have a lot of stuff in the peer database, but if you're in Wisconsin or a rural area, I definitely would not rely on peer in case there's not enough users where you are. So just keep that in mind. I would go with MLS, public, or Ask Me. Okay, lastly you have column order, and you're going to see all this information displayed here. Later on, when you're choosing the comps you want for your report grid, you'll see all this information displayed for each one. You can actually set the ordering here, and this will make sense later. I prefer to see site, followed by age, followed by GLA, year built, sales price. What I did is I moved these around by clicking up and down, and I put this in the order I want this to be displayed. As you see, there's a lot here, so if I don't move site all the way up, later on I'm going to have to scroll all the way over to look for it, and then I'm going to have to go all the way back and look for age or GLA. So this will make sense later. If it doesn't now, you'll definitely want to set this up at some time. So we're going to scroll back up. And now that we've reached the bottom of the page, anything you change, you do need to save it. So we're going to click Save. Okay, so while that loads, you're going to notice there are additional drop-down boxes. There is one that says abbreviations, comments, definitions, graphs, passwords. Abbreviations, you can decide how you want the abbreviations entered into your report. So for example, if the comp has central air and heat forced air, we're going to say FWA/CAC. If you don't typically abbreviate this way and you don't want this entered into the report, maybe you do this. Maybe that's how you want it entered. If so, you just type however you want to see the abbreviation in the report. Or if you just want to stick with what we have here, which is UAD, you can leave this alone, and that's how it's going to transfer to the report. Comments. Comments are pretty cool. We have quite a few comments we can put in the report for you. The black headers indicate where they're provided. This is a cost approach site comment. This is a concession comment under the 1004MC. And everything filled out is the comment that's going to be entered into the report. Now you're going to notice there are brackets here showing data. What this means to you is we'll pull this for every report. So we're going to pull the subject MLS, sales quantity, concessions predominant, max, etc. And that's going to pull the data for every single report. Now you don't have to use our comments by any means. If you go through the trials and you feel like you want to make the comments more extensive, or maybe use templates and you already have them pre-written out, you can erase this, write your own, or just copy and paste yours into here, and that's what will go into the report. Or you can leave what we have, or you can add on to it. So for example, let's say I want to add an additional sentence, maybe saying this is just an example, it's probably not going to make sense, but you'll write out the sentence, and we're going to hover over this menu, Quick Pick, and we're going to go to 1004MC. And let's say I want to pull the exposure time, the min. So you'll notice right after the sentence I started writing, that's in brackets now, and it's going to pull that for every report. So that's just an example. Take the time to go through these. They're very extensive. You can pretty much do whatever you want with the comments, and we'll do that for every report. Same thing with condo. We do the condo REO. Okay, definitions. You will have a page of definitions. This will be transferred to the work file. So if you want to copy and paste them, maybe the allocation land value method, any of the definitions returned by the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal or the Appraisal Institute, do whatever you'd like with these. Graphs, you can choose up to 10 different graphs for the report. You will have graph 1 here. You will select either month, quarter, or year. These are going to be based off of your narrowed search, your 1004MC. So I already have them selected. I have month. It's going to be based on my dollar per square foot. I have a year graph that's going to be based on percentage of concession contribution, and month based on histogram. Now you don't have to do graphs by any means. I do recommend you give 2 or 3 a try just to see what they look like back in the report. And this does depend on where you are. If you're in a very, very rural area, maybe your 1004MC has 7 solds and 1 active, obviously it's not going to have a ton of info, so just keep that in mind. Lastly, password. If you do need to change the Appraiser Genie password you make initially when you sign up, come back here, type in the new password, repeat it, and just click Save. Okay, so that's the gist of the defaults page. You guys can come back to this video if you ever want to watch it. There is a video here. It is a little outdated, so I do recommend going to our website if you want a refresher. Okay, so once we have set up all the defaults and we're ready to start the report, we need to refer back to this forward and backward arrow. So we're going to click this all the way over now. And you're going to see a tab at the very front indicating Input. We're going to click on Input. And Input basically is your home page. So whenever you want to go ahead and get started, you click on Input. Now same thing, once we get to the Input page right here, if you ever need to go back and change your defaults, you just click this arrow again all the way over, click back on defaults, change whatever you need to, save it, and then come back over here to Input. Now what you see here is the page you're going to see from now on. You're going to have your subject address across the top here. If you don't have the parcel or legal in the report, we will pull that from public records like so, and we will transfer it back here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to follow this page top going down. So you're going to see this option, enter the effective date of the report. Don't type it in because it is a calendar. So click the down arrow, choose the effective date here. Next, we're going to select the form we're using. The ones towards the top are UAD, below are non-UAD. We're using a 1 to 4 single family, so we will click on this. MLS acronym. Now once again, I have these 3 set in my default, so I need to make sure I change it to whichever MLS I'm using today, which is Intrace. Cost approach, this is also optional. We actually do run cost approach regardless if you want it in the report or not. We use it for depreciation among other things. But if the lender doesn't require that it's filled out in the report, you can change it to no. You'll still get the support later. Or if you need it completed, leave it on yes. To the right, you have the REO addendum, quantitative REO addendum, and listing addendum. These are optional. It depends on the report you're using. The listing addendum, if it's required that the actives are on their own grid versus with the solds, you can check this and we will make a listing addendum, and that will look like the page 2 of course, but it will just have the active comps in there. Alright, so the next section here is your comp search narrowing filters. I'm going to go back to the MLS file, and as I told you guys earlier, this is my MLS search. All I did is I exported it, I saved it to my computer, and I have about 467. Now these 467, this is going to go into my page 1 unit housing trends, and then the high, low, and pre-dom. But of course I don't want all of those to go in my 1004MC or any of my analysis because that's my neighborhood. I want to reduce it to the true comp search. So what I'm going to do here is these parameters is how I further narrow that file. For example, I have a 40 here. It's a percentage. So I'm telling Genie, take that file, narrow it down based on the subject site size, and the comps have to be within 40% of the subject, plus or minus. So I'm narrowing this out to get a better parameter range. So when I choose my comps, I'll have them all within the criteria I need them in. Stories, I'm going to put an equal here. If I put an equal sign, I just want the Genie to only return comps that have the same number of stories as my subject. So that's what equal means. It just says must match the subject. If I leave a 0 there, I don't particularly want to narrow it by age. It will narrow it by everything else, but if it has a 0, we just skip over that. So all of these I didn't care to narrow in particular, so I left a 0 there. GLA, I want my comps within 40% plus or minus of my subject, so I have a 40% here. Now these will of course change depending on the report. Definitely do not put something in every field because you can narrow it far too much to where you don't have any comps to choose from. So we're going to start with this. Reconciliation weighting. Now you're going to score 1 through 10, 10 being most similar. This is a use path requirement. I have a 10 here indicating I want the full weight on sales comparison approach. You do not have to put a 10. You can put maybe an 8 here. Let's say you want a 2 on cost approach. That's fine. Just make sure it totals 10. So I'm going to go back with the 10. And you can't skip over this. You have to put something there. If you leave all these blanks, you will get an error. Highest and best use. Your top use is residential. Below is possible, which is also residential. Multifamily does display by default, but if it's not applicable, click the down arrow, click on the blank space, and it gets rid of it. Land comp sales. Now I don't ever really see anyone use this, but if you have raw land value that needs to be reconciled, you type in the address, sales price, site size, etc. You can assign a weighting to it. That way that will contribute to your land value. If this is not needed, you skip it and leave it blank because we're still going to give you the extraction or allocation method for the land value. Scroll down. Square foot method. These green boxes work just like the top. If you subscribe to Marshall and Swift, all you do is manually take the data they give you, you transfer it into the boxes below, or if you want to get rid of Marshall and Swift, leave this entirely blank, and we use buildingcost.net to complete it, which is free to you. So you don't have to fill this last section out or this one here. Now once we reach the bottom of the page, we need to scroll back to the top, and you're going to notice on the left-hand side there's a button, Start New Report. So fill all this out, come back to the top, click on this, and what it's doing is it's looking for the file I told you that I saved to my computer earlier. Well, I already know where that is. I saved it right here, which is my subject address. So I'm just going to double click on this, or you can click it once and hit open, whatever you prefer. Now what Genie's going to do is it's going to import all those comps, all 400 and however many there were. We're going to narrow it down based on the GLA, the stories, and the site size. And we're also going to scrub it. Realtors enter crazy things sometimes, or the MLS just exports it kind of weird. So we clean the MLS search up. We also geocode every comp that's in the file. We narrow it down, and we make it UAD compliant. What you'll see right here is your subject information. Everything that is here is just transferred from page 2. So this information is just converted, and it's shown here. All of this gets sent to buildingcost.net. So it is important that you look through here, make sure everything's right. If it's not, you can change or modify whatever you need to. This looks good to me, so I'm going to click Next. Now what we're doing is it says grading and sorting comps. We're going to take you guys to that narrowed search. So remember, we narrowed it by site, stories, and GLA. You won't see this pop up here. And at the top, you're going to have a counter. So it's telling me I have 230 comps that are shown on this page here. 206 are sold, 19 are actives, and 5 are pending. So out of over 467, by just narrowing it by site, GLA, and stories, it reduced it to 230. So these are the comps that met the criteria I put on page 1. And just some background on this. the sold and actives that are within last year, or within 1 year, excuse me, that's going to be used for my 1004MC. All the solds being 206, we will use that for the regression analysis and the matched pair analysis. And for the extraction and allocation adjustments, we just use the subject and whatever comps you choose for the report. So you can tweak this page if you get here and you feel like, my 1004 doesn't look right, it's going to be off, it's too big, too small, whatever the case is. You just click back on input, and all you do is widen those parameters up a little bit or narrow them down until you get what you want to see here. So this isn't set in stone by any means. It may take you a couple of times to get used to it. I already know which comps I'm looking for, and this looks accurate, so I don't have to go back. But earlier I told you guys in the defaults that you can reorder your column headers. So for example, I showed you site. I wanted that in front, followed by age, GLA, year bill, and sales price. This is what I was referring to. Because if you notice, when you grab this horizontal bar and drag it over, there's a ton of information here. And if I don't have it in order, I'm going to have to scroll back and forth constantly looking for it. So I just put immediately up front whatever I want to see in whatever order I want it to be in. Now we do actually order this for you. So starting at the top going down, we start with closest proximity to the subject, followed by most recently sold, then least adjusted. So theoretically, if you do your neighborhood boundaries correctly, you narrow it accurately, once you get to this page, the better comps, the more similar should be towards the top of the page. Now you don't have to use that ordering. If you don't like the ordering, you can click on any of these column headers to reorder it. So for example, let's say maybe I want to order sales price lowest to highest or vice versa. You can click on the header. It will load. And you'll notice the zeros here. If you look over to the left, A is active, so obviously there's no sales price. If I click it again, it should go highest to lowest now. Okay, so here's my top one, and that's a sold. S means sold. So I just reordered it. I completely took it out of the ordering I had, and I put it by sales price. You don't even have to just do that. If you want to follow it by year bill, you could click on that column header. That will change it as well. And that's pretty much just to help you. You'll see there's some crazy year-built comps in here. My comp's my subject's like 19 years old, but I did a 2-year search, that kind of thing. Just remember, if there are outliers in here, you can delete them. So let's say there's a sold in here or a couple of solds, and you don't want them to go into the regression analysis or maybe the matched pair analysis. You can click on them. We can click on delete selected comps. We'll click on yes. And you'll notice it's going to remove them from this set. So keep in mind, if any do make it to this page and you need to kick them out, that's fine. The only thing that's used is, like I said, the last year 1004MC solds, and then extraction allocation is just your subject and the comps you use. Now I already know what I'm looking for, so I'm going to hit Control F on my keyboard. You're going to notice there's a little pop-up box over here, and I'm just going to type in the street number of the one I'm looking for. If there's more than one, you'll see 1 of 5, whatever the count is, and just use the up and down arrow. And you'll see down here in orange, it highlights my address, 771 Lytle. So I'm going to go to the next one, 1309. That's not it. Let me go over Edgemont. Okay. And I have one more, which is a sold. It says it's on here. Oh. There we go. You have to type it in correctly, of course. Okay, so I have my 3 solds here. So these are the 3 solds I want to use for the report. So what I'm selecting are the comps I want for the report. So get used to this page. This page can have quite a few comps on it. If you have a more cookie cutter, subdivision, maybe you're in California and your neighborhood's like 1,000 comps, 500, whatever the case is, definitely move this around. Definitely take the time to reorder this or click on the column headers if needed. Now if you do change the ordering and you decide you want to go with the ordering we had it in, you can click on Reset Sort Order. and it's going to put my comps back in the natural ordering they were displayed. So Mossy Oak is back at the top now. Okay, make sure I have all three selected. Okay, so what we're going to do now, once I have the comps I want to use selected, I'm going to click on Next. We're going to take the three as selected. We're going to verify the MLS information against public records against our peer database. And if any of them report discrepancies, earlier in the defaults, some of them I set for site, go ahead and use public, or for GLA, use public, or MLS, whatever I set, that's going to apply now. So what you'll see here on the left-hand side is the subject information, 731 Lytle Shores Drive. This little pop-up box, there's a discrepancy. So for example, for Lytle's Acre, I think the 771 is actually missing the 1549, which could be the fact that you guys are remoted in, not sure, but that's for 1549 Lytle. It's for age. MLS is saying 1, public's reporting 2, and our peer is saying 1. So since I left age on Ask Me, I'm getting this pop-up box because I wanted Genie to just tell me what everyone's reporting so I can choose that way. For me, public values are pretty good in this area. If you want to go through a discrepancy one by one in case there's more, you'll click on the top box. Or if you just want to go ahead and use public for any other discrepancies that may remain, you can click on the bottom box. And it will just apply public records to any of the discrepancies I told it to. Now going back down, once again here's my subject. The information that's entered below is just coming from my total report. Or if I had some of that blank, maybe I forgot to fill out site, if we could pull it from public, we will put that in here for you. We're going to grab this horizontal bar. You're going to notice the comps I chose are here, 771, 1549, lastly 1309 Edgemont. All the information displayed below comes from MLS, public, or peer, depending on what I chose on my defaults here. Same thing, go over. All this information is just pulled and verified for me. And lastly, this column here. Now the page is really easy to read. So for example, here's site. This is my subject site. If I go straight across the page, here's the site for this address here, 771. And you'll go straight across. Here's the site for this address. And straight across. Now you definitely will want to look at this. If anything is missing, anything looks incorrect, whatever the case is, you definitely want to correct it on this page. MLS is not perfect, as I'm sure you all know. Public records can be outdated or not perfect either. So you'll want to look through this, just make sure it looks accurate. You can change anything you need to. So for example, if you're looking at the room count here, maybe on the comps it says 9, but it's not 9, maybe it's 7. Definitely erase that, put a 7 there, and any adjustments that are affected by you updating it, we will automatically update. So it's not in stone. You can change this around if needed. You're going to notice in the middle of each comp there's a field or a column that says Genie Peer Database. And you'll notice if there's information that's automatically displaying in the middle here, that's our peer database saying this comp has been previously ran through the Genie, here's the information. So we'll go back over here, 771 Lytle, it will pop up right after it, 11500, so that's what's typically used for this comp, 1 story, traditional, etc. You have your age here, 21. Looks like nobody's entering the total room count, but it will update that, so the next time if I ran it back through, it would say 943. Same thing, that's GLA 2350, and of course heating and cooling. So that's just for you. If you run comps through the Genie and you come back and run the same ones, it will do the same thing for you. It'll say, okay, last time you used Q4, or last time GLA used this. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and select the comps, the adjustments for the comps. You'll have a black adjustment header. If you scroll down, you'll have a time per month. This is land value, age, bed, excuse me. These are all the different type of adjustments we give you. You do not have to use every single one, but they're all here if you need them. We'll scroll back to the top. Now it's important to note that we do put adjustments in the grid for you, but you have to click on them. So for example, this is time per month. If you notice right here, this indicates declining. So if I click on this negative 1.00, it's going to give me an extraction time per month adjustment. And if you want more information on that, you will now notice all these tabs, they're blue. Once you get to this page here, all of the adjustments have been ran unless you update the page here, and we can click on them to look at the information. So this is an extraction adjustment. I need to look at extraction. All of these tabs will be converted, put into PDF later. We're going to go down. Forecasting adjustment. So down here indicates the negative 1%, which is what you saw on the page earlier. It will give you a little breakdown related to the subject and the comps we chose, the information, the adjustments we use. And same thing for anything up here. Site size adjustments, any market-driven age adjustments, market-driven square foot adjustment, basement, market-driven GLA. This will all be converted, put in a work file. If there's any formulas used, it's very easy to read. For example, it says take E minus G. Well, this is E, this is G. And that gives you H, which is this value. So we'll go through a couple just to let you see them. Allocation's a little bit differently. The way allocation works is you're going to have percentage here. These percentages come from buildingcost.net minus the GLA. That comes from the defaults earlier from the National Association of Home Builders. So the 62% is allocated towards GLA out of the total replacement cost being 100. So we'll take the percentage, we put it into the average dollar per square foot, which is based on the comps you choose. So we can scroll down and see this. Down here it says find average dollar per square foot from comps, and we can use this little horizontal bar and go over. And you'll notice we have the dollar per square foot for all three comps, and we will give you the average down here, which is 90. So all we do is we take that 62% into 90, and that gives us the dollar per square foot adjustment. And this is just based off the as stated percentages and then the market-driven dollar per square foot based on the comps. Here's your garage space, 4,700. And you can go over if you need a full bath, half bath, appliances, flooring, fireplace. You scroll all the way over. It will tell you the adjustment value. And before that, it tells you what is used. 60% times the 90.05, which is the actual dollar per square foot with the change included, of course. And it goes straight across. So we're going to go back over. We're going to use this arrow. And once we need to get back to the adjustments, we're going to click on side by side. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a few adjustments here. Here's my land value. This 8,000 is based on allocation, 13,000 extraction, and regression is 55. These tend to be different. Obviously, they're completely different ways they're derived. Allocation does use the local tax assessor improvement in land value. Extraction does not. It's a different method. And regression can be kind of accurate or inaccurate. It honestly depends on how many sold comps you have. If you have quite a few sold comps, your regression may be spot on. If you have 15 sold comps, that number is not going to be right at all. So keep that in mind when you look at regression. We're going to go ahead and click on extraction. So once I click on this, now it will turn blue, give me a load screen, and you're going to notice right across from here, here's my comp site, and the adjustment was 0. Now keep in mind, I told Genie if it's within 30% site size in my default, do not adjust for it. So if this number is 30% within this, it's not going to adjust, which it didn't. Same thing for this one, 0. And same thing for this one, 0. So a site size adjustment did not apply due to my defaults. Age, this is 1,600 per year. I can click on this. Sometimes it's delayed when people are remoted in. So you'll notice right here, age, this comp here, here's my first adjustment, negative 32. This is much higher, obviously, 2 years versus 19 years. And this one is 75 versus 19, so obviously pretty high. Bath, if I want to make a bath adjustment, it's going to give me a 2,100. GLA, $56 per square foot, $44 per square foot, or regression, which is $76. I'm going to go with the lower. Now you're going to notice here's my GLA for this address. Here's the adjustment per square foot. There's my GLA adjustment, GLA adjustment. If I want heating and cooling, that doesn't apply. They both have heating and cooling. My garage counts the same, so I don't need a garage or a carport. And I believe fireplace is the same. Fireplace here, 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 so I don't need a fireplace adjustment. And you'll notice it goes right here. So this is why I put fireplace in row 1, because if you don't, if you put fireplace in blank row 2, it'll say fireplace here, but the adjustment will always go up top in blank row 1 no matter where you put it. Same thing with pool. You'll always want to put it down here so it lines up perfectly across. Looks like none of them have a pool. Alright, so that's pretty much what you do. If you don't click on the adjustments, it's not a problem. We won't put the adjustment in the grid, but you'll still have all the PDFs, all the support documentation for it later, in case you want to look at how we got $2,100 for heating and cooling, or maybe the $4,700 for a garage space. One more thing to show you guys. You'll notice each comp has a realtor button in red and a tax in blue. If you click on realtor, if the MLS gives us any list agent, sell agent information, or remarks, that will show up here, and tax information will display here. So that's the gist of this. We're going to go ahead and go back over. There's a button on the left-hand side, Export to Report. You'll definitely want to click on that. So once you're done making all adjustments that you want in the grid, you click on Export to Report. You'll see this load screen, Preparing Reports. Don't do anything. In a moment, you'll have a pop-up box. We have to wait for total. So we're going to wait 1 second for their data wizard to populate. Now I did go through this and explain this all pretty detailed. So as you see, it's a quick process. Once you get the hang of it, you can do it in 45 minutes. I have a gentleman yesterday. We went through an entire report, start to end. It took him 45 minutes with Genie. So we'll let this load. Sometimes this is delayed when I host a webinar, so just give it 1 second. Okay, here comes the data wizard. We're going to let this load. And we're going to merge into a currently open report. The whole point of us is to fill out the report, make sure you have the right one selected. You definitely want to hit replace the data in my open report, and the reason being is we are meant to fill out 1004, the comp grid, cost approach. All of that gets filled out for you. If you leave it on this, keep, and let's say you already have the 1004 MC filled out for whatever reason, or a cost approach, we will not overwrite that if it's already in the report. So for whatever reason, if you have that filled out and you want us to replace it, you need to click on replace. If you have a sketch, you'll check this. I do not, and then we're going to click import. Okay, you'll notice at the bottom, total is highlighted orange. Once we see it's orange, we're going to go down to the report. You'll notice all this information is filled out. In my defaults, I had MLS Assessor, and I asked Genie to pull the list price. So the list price is here. You could change it to doc number, whatever you want it to say there. We will put the in trace, whatever your MLS acronym is, followed by the MLS number, days on market. Quality and condition. We don't actually verify quality, so if you don't see anything in here, then nobody took the time to put that in the report. C4, we pretty much just take whatever the condition was of the subject and kind of map it across. So it does have a sliding scale rating for condition. It's based on the effective age as far as 0 to 5 years, maybe a C1, whatever the case is. By any means, you don't have to use these. You could erase them, or you can leave them there and verify later. It's up to you. Okay, my adjustments come through. The ones I did manually click on and the comp grid on the side-by-side will be entered here. The ones I did not click on will not be here. Porch and patio, I told Genie to leave that blank. I want to do it later, so that's why porch and patio is blank. And blank row 2, I left that open in case I want to come back and put something there myself. Market conditions addendum, that'll be filled in. Of course, all the trends are checked. Here's an example of a comment we provide. And as stated, you can leave this here, you can add on to it, you can write your own, whatever you want to do with it. That's an example here. Cost approach, that will be entered here as well. We will put buildingcost.net, whatever Q rating you assign the subject. Q4 is average, Q3 is good. The effective date, of course, this is all filled out for you. As is, you guys will take care of that. We don't fill out as is. If there's a basement or basement information, that will go here. And then, of course, your porch and patio is pulled and displayed here. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to go back up to page 1. You'll notice the legals here. Assessor, we pulled the public records. Here's my one-unit housing trends. Here's my one high-low pre-dom here. And so you'll notice the rest of this is left alone. So a lot of information on page 1 we don't fill out. We don't have any of this information. So you guys will, if you have your comments in there already, let's say you wrote the neighborhood boundaries earlier, by all means you can put that in there ahead of it because we will not erase that. We'll never erase anything on this page here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is the work file tab. So if you click work file, you're going to notice there's a bunch of PDFs now, and this is a PDF copy of every tab we saw inside the Genie. So let's say we want to look at reconcile. Once this loads, it's going to be a PDF conversion of the reconcile tab that was in Genie. So this average value here, 208, that is what's going to go into my sales comparison approach. And it's going to be based off of this average, the quantity of adjustments weighted by net dollars, weighted by gross dollars. So these averaged out is this value here. And we give you the breakdown on each, weighted by quantity, weighted by net, and of course weighted by gross. And down here you'll have the cost approach, sales comparison, and then the 10, which is your weighting, was assigned to sales, which is 208. You can look at regression. Regression, I'm not going to try to explain that to you guys. I don't really understand regression just because I don't know calculus, that kind of stuff, statistics, not my thing. But it is here. It will actually give you the actual information used, and then below you'll have the data set of every sold comp that went into your regression analysis support. Same thing with land. If you want to know more about the land value or the site information, you have the land extraction method and you have your land allocation method below. Depreciation, you'll see everything related to depreciation, remaining economic life as far as depreciation, age, etc. That's all in here. And there are some graphs. I did click on a couple of the graphs. So here's an example. This is just a histogram. Highest and best use, if I want a complete breakdown on that, that's here as well. Extraction, everything we did based on extraction as far as any adjustments, GLA, dollar per square foot. If you want any of these in the report, for example, let's go with the reconciliation one. Where'd it go? Right here. So if you click on that and go to insert as page, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to leave it as reconcile, click OK. And we'll go back to forms, and at the very bottom I have the reconcile PDF, and that will be in the report. Now that's pretty much the gist of it. If you guys have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. I'll make sure to unmute everyone. So go ahead if anyone has a question, please. Nobody have any questions? Did I go too fast? It's really easy to use. Hopefully I didn't.
No, I have a question.
Okay.
The numbers that it's calculating for the front page, the oversupply, stable, and whatnot, it's automatically marking the boxes too. But if the data was showing that there was an oversupply, then how would it also be showing under 3 months marketing time?
I saw that too when we were going through there. I'm not sure why it checked this one because I don't know why it checked that one. I know they converted, being our programmers, to a different schema on this. I'm not sure. I will ask them that, but I noticed that too. So I'm not sure.
Can you go to the MC form?
Mm-hmm.
Same situation here. Look at your median comparable sales price. How is that declining?
Yeah, I saw that too. I will ask. I'm not sure. I definitely don't write the program. All I know is something was converted. I don't know if it has anything to do with that, but I can let somebody know in our programming team. It looks like it's just checking it backwards.
Question for you in regards to using total, since most of us, we all use mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be the third step? Because when I do mobile, it comes into the form, pretty much filled out, and then I pick a file to merge it with. If I'm doing the neighborhood, would I do those first, those two steps first, and then do yours? Because when I do those first two steps, my report's almost all filled out.
Right, right. Well, you would have to because you have to start with the subject information entered. So if that's the method that would enter the subject information for you or transfer it, you'd have to do it that way. There is actually, I'll show you before, hold on one second. There's an alternative way you can use the Genie. So I'm going to, once I went to total and I saw everything in the report, I still have this open where it says, did your report export correctly? I'm going to go and click yes, and that's one use. So once I see this pop-up box, it takes one use for me, and I will show you an alternative way. So here's an icon on your desktop. When you install Appraiser Genie, there's a different way you can do it. So if you have not inspected the property, let's say you don't have all the subject information, whatever the case is, but you want to get started, you can double-click on this icon and go to whatever your software is, a la mode, click OK, and it's going to walk you through the same thing, but the only difference is you manually type in the subject address, which I'll show you, and then maybe you can decide if you want to go to desktop icon route or go through total. So notice how it launches the exact same way, but it's blank. I would want to type in my subject address and just tab over. And in a moment, it's going to pull the parcel and legal. I go through, fill out page 1 and come back, and it's going to start the report for me. So once I export, it's going to say create a new report, and it's going to fill in the subject information. It's going to fill in the 1004 MC, the cost approach, comp grid, and you can use that to start the report, or you go through the total option, but you'll have to have the subject info in there before you go through it. So those are your two options. It's up to you how you do it. I don't really recommend, honestly, going through the desktop icon because if you go through this way, like I just did, you're relying on public records to give you all that info, and if they don't, then you're not going to have it. You still have to go to your MLS and make sure that subject address is in the file, and if it is, then we can just rely on MLS for what public doesn't give us, but it's up to you. Anyone else?
I have another question. If you're, I mean, in Florida, I'll just use for an example, there's such differences of where I'm going to use for my neighborhood. Like if I'm in a PUD, I want to use that PUD only, so I'm not going to have a large amount of data in those comps. You get 200, 300, 400.
Mm-hmm.
How accurate or inaccurate will this make it?
Oh, it's still accurate. Actually, the owner, we're in Abilene, Texas, so sometimes we'll have to go to Trent or Merkel, which is like 10 or 15 miles away, to pull comps, and most of the time the data set doesn't start with 400. It may start with 50, it may start with 70, 30, whatever the case is. I mean, we have appraisers who are in Wisconsin that literally their neighborhood boundaries are 30 comps. So once they actually even try to narrow it, their 1004 MC comprises of 10 or 20. So it works both ways. As long as your neighborhood boundaries are accurately defined to begin with, it's going to work the same way, whether you're in a rural or a non-rural area. So I haven't had any complaints or any issues. Now, of course, it does work great with California, but it works well in our area too. So it should work fine for anyone who uses it.
Angela, I have a question. I missed a little bit of the beginning of it as far as when you were setting up. It looked like you pulled your comps from a database and then sent them to your desktop, and that's basically what you did, and then had the Appraiser Genie go in and look at that.
Yes, I will show you guys. We don't generally go through this during the demo because it's so different across the nation, and it just is. You have people in Florida, their MLS is completely different, but this is in Trace, this is North Texas, so I'll show you what I did real quick. Let me log in. So I logged into my MLS, and I created my neighborhood boundaries, so let me log in real quick. Look away, everyone. Don't steal my password. Okay, so what I did is I logged into my matrix. So in Trace's matrix, if you guys use matrix, it's going to be pretty much the same way no matter where you are if it's built on matrix. So we went to search, residential, I went to quick, and I grabbed all my statuses, I grabbed withdrawns. The date range is up to you. I've seen appraisers go back 720, I've seen 365, whatever you want. I put 720. And I grabbed pendings, all my active statuses. I narrowed it to single family, and all I did was draw a 2-mile radius based on the subject. Get it in there. And that's about as far as I narrowed it down. So you'll notice there's 465. So that is why mine was so large. I could have went a year, and that would have cut it down here to 275. So I didn't do anything else. And what you do here, right here, is what's going to go right here. So keep in mind those are one and the same, and then we'll further narrow it to fill out the 1004MC and then for all your adjustment support. You can use a polygon, by the way, if you want to draw it. You can use the map feature.
Okay, so then you hit results and then you sent that to a file?
Yes, I went to results and I checked all. And this would be different a little bit, but most of them say all, or they'll give you a little checkbox at the top, one of the two. Down here with Matrix, you have a button that says export, so you can click on export. And this is where we store the template. So I labeled it Genie New, and I'll show you what it looks like. So all I would do is I would click from the drop down, Genie New or Genie, click on export. And down here, here's the file. So if I open it up, it's the same file that I saved earlier. So all I did was save that to my computer somewhere. Now I'll show you what it looks like. If you click on edit, this is an example of the template. So available fields, these are the fields, the particular MLS I'm using. These are the ones that allow you to export and put in a file. We don't need all of these. I mean, there's so much stuff in there we don't need. So what we do is we go over here and we put it in order, the exact fields we need and the name of the fields. So we can do this part for you. It's free, or you can do it yourself. All you do is go to My Matrix Settings. It says Custom Exports at the bottom. You'll click on that and you'll just go to Add Export, name it Appraiser Genie, and we'll send you a PDF and it tells you the fields we need in the order we need them in, and you just save it, and that's it. It's very easy. We've done it a million times across the nation. So does that help you guys to actually visually see an MLS example? Hey, does anyone else have any questions? This video I will send to all of you, or I'll have Mr. Soto send it to you, and then if you need to refer back to it, by all means, do that. And I will look into the oversupply and this here. So I will let you know as well, if that's okay, Raul.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think it's just whatever they implemented, it's checking them backwards somehow, so I'll take care of that. Nobody else have any questions today? Hold on one second. If you put in a subject or other info from the mobile app or template first, will Genie override it? No, you have two options at the end. You can keep or replace. So if you have data already in here, let's say I started the report, went through Genie, and I already had the 1004MC filled out, or the comp grid, whatever it is. If that's already filled out, then I need to leave it on keep if I don't want it overwritten. But what's the point if the whole point of you going through the Genie is for what we do? Or you can put replace, and yes, it will overwrite this. If it's already in here, any of this stuff we're supposed to do, it will override it if you click on replace. If you leave it on keep, we do not. So total gives you the option. Appraise and ACI do not. It just flat out overwrites it.
So then the question with using the mobile app, I put in the addresses in, just where I can take the photo while in the field, drop it in where the address is, even though they may not be in that same order, comp 1, 2, 3, 4, but at least the addresses are there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually put them in the order I'm taking the photos, which is easier to do. So then what I do keep, So the address and the photos stay, but then the data will come in?
Well, you're going to choose the same comps in the Genie, right? You just want the pictures to stay where they are?
You're right.
Okay. Pictures we don't even touch. So if your picture's already in there, it's going to leave it in the spot you had it in. So when you go through Genie and you're clicking on the comps you want, just click them in the order they're in here. So you'll want to choose this one first, that one second, the last one third, and it will come in that ordering. Unless in the defaults where I told you can choose the column sort order. Remember, I put it on close date. So if you don't order it by close date, that's how it's going to export back. Or you leave it blank and it will just order it the way you click on them. It's up to you, either one.
So it won't recognize the same address and put the information under that same address?
Not unless you click them in that order. So just click on 771 if that's your first, if that's your first comp, click that first, etc. And then it will put them in the order you clicked on. So
and then move them around.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that is total lets us do so much. There's some stuff they won't let us do as far as the report, obviously, so we try to make it as easy as we can on you guys, but you may run into little things where the pictures, because we don't do anything with them. I know some people have asked if there's any way you guys can upload a picture or whatever. We're not there yet. Hopefully at some point we will be, but there are some things you may still have to manually do. For example, if your MLS doesn't actually report the concession amount, let's say the realtors flat out don't enter it, or it's just not something they let you download, you will have to retrieve the concession amount yourself. There's no way around that. So just keep that in mind. Anyone else have any questions? It will use public records for the subject if you don't have it filled out. It is still verified. So for example, when we uploaded this into the Genie, it uses the information you have in here. Now if you leave this off, let's say you forgot to enter that, maybe you forgot to enter age, we will pull public records and fill it out for you if it gives it to us. So if Hubble came back and said 19 and maybe public said whatever I had here, I don't remember, it will pull that for you. But it's up to you if you want to use it, or you can type in your own value, but we do pull public for the subject and the comps. Thank you, Larry.
What public record source is being used? Is it RealQuest or is it from the specific county?
We pull First American. First American owns ACI. So we pull First American public records. We pull the county assessor for the improvement value, the land value. We pull buildingcosts.net. Of course, we geocode every address, postal service, and those are pretty much the sources we use. If you don't know what First American is, just Google it. It shows that they own ACI. We used to use Realist, but the problem with Realist is they were too intermittent and they would go up and down too much. So if you run the report and they're down, then we can't pull public records for that comp. So we switched to First American. No one else have any questions today? If not, as stated, I will send this and you guys can share this around. If anyone has any questions, let me know. And as stated, I will take care of looking into the market conditions and, of course, the oversupply here. All right, well, thank you, guys. I will get this sent to you. As far as your MLS, remember, that has to be mapped first. So you would have to send an email to MLS@appraisergenie.com. And if you want us to set that up for you, we don't charge anything. Or if you'd rather do it yourself, just email us nonetheless, and we will tell you how to get that set up. If you need to call us, please call 325-704-2592 or email info@appraisergenie.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy your day.